Welcome to the Christian Indie Writers Podcast, where we inform, encourage, and support Christian indie writers on their journey to publication. I'm Jamie Hirschberger. I write short fiction under the pen name J.R. Nichols.
I'm Jennifer Carl Tong, and I write historical Christian romance.
Christina, you're muted.
She's Christina Catane. There we go.
That's the story of my life. I am Christina Catane, and I write multiple genres, including Christian dystopian fiction.
I'm Rhonda Hagerman, and I write fiction and nonfiction under the pen name Dee Dee Bowman.
Ooh, getting fancy with the introduction. All right, everybody. I want to thank you for tuning in today. Thanks for listening live. Welcome to our chatters. If you watch us, Jen, how do they watch us to be a part of the chat that we have going on every day?
There's two different ways you can. Most people are over on YouTube chatting live with us on our YouTube station, or you can join us on Facebook in our Facebook Live and chat there as well. Unfortunately, they won't be able to see each other, but we try to communicate back and forth for them.
Gotcha. Well, I do want everybody to know that if they will go to our website and sign up for our newsletter, they will never miss a single episode of the podcast. Okay, so thanks to everyone who's tuning in. We start each episode with a segment called What's Up? It's a time to check in with one another to see what is going on with us. So what's up with you today, Rhonda? What's up with you?
Today I've got more decorating to do, and it's getting funner and funner because it's not just unpacking and organizing. It's actually trying to make things look pretty. And
nice.
So I'm looking forward to a weekend full of it.
Oh,
and
that's
some writing in there too somewhere.
Awesome. I get told that I'm full of it just about every weekend. So what's going on with you, Christina Catane?
Oh, well, let's see. We got new furniture.
Ooh.
We painted the walls blue in the hallway and entryway. So that was exciting. And oh yeah, I sent my finished manuscript to my beautiful, wonderful, lovely formatter, and I got it back today, and I'm ready to upload it to Ingram Sparks.
Oh, so
cool. So exciting. How fun. Christina, we are so happy that we've been along with you for this whole experience. And as you get into the nitty gritty of actually pushing that publish button, let us know what you come across so that our listeners can also know what to expect. Awesome, Tina.
I thought, oh, goody, the work is done. And then I looked at everything I have to do and like, the work is not done.
Right? Yes, that is so true.
Work.
Like, and as indie published authors, like we do it all. Right? We are writer, we are editor, we are designer, we are marketer, we're everything. So I'm so proud of you, Tina. I'm so excited. I cannot even wait to see it on a bookshelf, to see it available online. I'm just very, very excited for you.
So
you get lots of congratulations. Piper says, yay. Gigi says, yay, Christina. Shell says, yay, Tina. Well, everyone, we're all excited. So got any advice for anybody out there, Tina, that is maybe like, if you could go back in time to 5 or 10 years ago, Tina, what would you say to her right now?
Get your butt in the chair and do the work.
Yeah. Amen. Amen.
Well, Tina, I don't want to put you on the spot right now. I'd like to give you a week to think about it at least. So I'm not going to ask you to pitch us your book yet, but I want you to be able to confidently promote and talk about your book to other people. So how about for next week, maybe you could come on and say, consider Lost and for what reasons, right? So like if you have a little bit of an elevator pitch you want to spit out to us now, great. But if not, maybe next week you could have one for us. What do you think about that?
Sure, I can do that.
Awesome. Because everybody should know how to talk about their book. I don't know how to talk about my book yet, but I'm not ready to sell it to people. So I feel like I've got a little bit of time. And I like to learn from other people's mistakes. So Tina, mistake away. No, just kidding. But
well, I've been talking about my book for a long time, but I don't have like a pithy little elevator pitch. I just usually start with the fact I was teaching this Bible study on the life of Moses, and I started wondering what it would be like if we lost the New Testament and had to go back to living under the law.
Does it need to be much more than that? Because I'm totally intrigued by that.
Yeah, it's a great concept. Great concept.
Okay, Piper we have some what's up in the chat. Piper built her website, set up an automation email, got a new host for the website, but hasn't moved over there yet. Finally wrote some more in my work in progress. Whoa, what a machine.
It's so much fun watching Piper with her her newsletter journey, because Piper is a very loyal fan to not only this show, but our newsletter chat. And it's been fun to kind of watch and grow along with her, because we're all on this journey together with the whole newsletter thing. Maria says, what's up? This week I signed off my final amendments on my manuscript, front cover and blurb for her fantasy novel. Yay. Hopefully published in the next couple of months. She's
wow.
small press.
That's amazing. Everybody's being so productive this week.
Yeah.
Shell says go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
She's writing almost every day and getting good progress on her short story. That was just an outline merely a couple of weeks ago, if y'all recall. Jason says he hasn't been able to write this week, but he got a lot of schoolwork done, also important. And he's working on plans for his new position at church. Well, congrats about that. Wow, awesome.
Amazing.
Okay, my what's up this week, if you remember, I had decided to educate myself a little bit about world geography because I'm terrible at geography in general. Mr. Waterworth was my junior high geography teacher, and we could get him talking about anything, and he would not teach us. He would just talk the whole hour. So anyway, that's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it. So, Pretoria, South Africa, which I'm not sure I'm saying right. Did you know that South Africa has 3 capital cities, one for each of their judicial, executive, and legislative branches? Pretoria is the executive branch capital of South Africa. I did not know this. Now, there was a whole lot of other stuff that I read that was kind of clinical and factual and very interesting. But what I really liked was the story of the jacaranda trees. They're these beautiful trees that bloom into purple flowers. Sometimes you can find a white one, but they're rarer. And they are just gorgeous, full of these big purple blooms. And there's apparently a tradition on college campuses that if a blossom falls on your head while you're studying for exams, you're going to pass.
Aw.
So I
So
just
they
wanted
study
to
under the trees. Is that what?
Yeah.
Everybody's like probably crowded under there.
It's almost like you get the blessing of the tree or whatever. But anyway, I think for next time, I'm going to virtually visit Halifax, Nova Scotia to find out something fun about where Robin stays. I didn't see Robin in the chat yet today, but hopefully next week she'll be pleasantly surprised to hear her town featured, her area featured on the podcast.
Yeah, I don't see Sage or Ogugwe on here either. So hopefully they'll watch the repeat of this and be able to just be impressed with how much work you've done.
Oh, I hope it's not impressive. They're probably gonna be like, that whole tree thing that was made up by some Wikipedia person or whatever. But no, I did not go to Wikipedia. I went to, it looked like South Africa legit, you know, we're gonna tell you about us. It was really cool, guys. So that's that. Jen, what's up with you?
So I didn't know what I was going to say until Rhonda said she was decorating, and I don't know if this will show up or not. But I have a new addiction. So you know the plants. I have lots of plants. I like plants. There's this thing, like, it's a thing now. Fabric pumpkins. Everywhere you look, every store has pumpkins. I was in Goodwill, and those of you that are not from the United States, Goodwill is a resale shop, like a thrift store, but they get new stuff from places too. And I had this one pillow, an orange pillow that said thankful, and then I came out of Goodwill. Can you see my windows?
So cute.
Those fabric pumpkins and those 2 new pillows. It's like now now I did that, you know, and now my girls just keep crawling up in there. They did kind of anyway, but now they crawl up in there and they cuddle with all the stuff to do their reading and stuff. So that's my only what's up. Is that I'm like a
invited little nook to have. It's so beautiful. It's so Beatrix Potter, it feels like, for some reason.
Yeah. And I've already had some fabric. I got these little buffalo print little fabric pumpkins, and they're kind of all over the place. And so I just keep buying fabric pumpkins, and I think it's replacing my problem with plants now. But if you guys are gonna walk in, it's gonna be like trying to get stuffed animals or something. I don't know. I'm done though. I decided I'm not gonna buy any more pumpkins.
As long as they don't start having imaginary conflicts with one another and stuff like that, you're probably okay.
Yeah. So anyways, that's my only what's up, is that I've been decorating for fall and enjoying it.
Awesome. Well, I think we got to everybody, didn't we, around the virtual roundtable? All right. And we're going to dive into our topic for today, which is Preptober. That's right. It is essentially NaNoWriMo Eve. What I mean is NaNoWriMo is a month-long event. It is during the month of November, and you write a whole novel. So it's National Novel Writing Month. Often you'll hear us abbreviate it as NaNoWriMo or NaNo. If you want more information about what all that's about, go and check it out. Google is your friend, because we're going to dive right into how you prepare for NaNoWriMo. Who would like to start? Oh, Jen's muted.
Oh,
I was
we got
coughing.
Tina
Sorry.
disease.
Yeah. I'd also like to point out too, if it weren't for Nano, we wouldn't even know each other.
That's right.
We all originally met at a Nano group or online. So yeah.
Tina, do you remember I dragged you to that Nano write-in? Do you remember? We barely even knew each other.
Yeah, you were leadership in the co-op, the homeschool co-op.
Right, yeah.
And you were like, "Come on," and I was like, "No, people."
And look at you now.
Yeah, look at me now.
Take us if you tried. But I just have to say, I knew you had to come to that write-in, because the minute you told me about the premise of your book, I was like, people are going to want to read this book. So it's really neat to see you coming across the finish line with that. Yay!
Yay!
I knew nobody and had come across Nano. And so I went to something, I don't know, but then that's the same year that they found that I had cancer. And at some point, Rhonda, you reached out to me. How did you even find me? Or no, because we didn't meet in person. You reached out to me somehow online.
Yeah,
right?
I had seen you. You were a little, not very, but a little bit active on the forums, the Nano forums. And so I asked, I think I sent a message, are you going to try to go to the write-in tomorrow or something like that? And you weren't too sure. And I just remember that I went there by myself too. And I sat at a table and I invited Tina to my table. And then a little while after that, I saw Jamie coming into Panera with her 3 kids toddling behind her like little ducky.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. And finally, I saw you sitting over there with your, big old cowl neck scarf and, all fancy looking.
Fancy looking.
Yeah. Very fancy. I was like, oh, I'm intimidated. Forget it. I'm not talking to her.
Are you kidding me? You're kidding right now, right?
Oh, no, you go to a Nano
only
write-in
kind of
and you're like, spot the romance writers, and they all have like dramatic eye makeup and scarves.
Yeah.
And, no, just kidding. I'm totally kidding. Totally kidding.
No, this is like the first time I've ever heard this, though. Seriously,
Well,
like you thought I looked fancy and like.
Yeah. I was like, she is way more together than I am. So I'm just going to pretend like I didn't come today.
Oh my goodness.
And still,
I've never heard this.
Rhonda was the one to open up her house and her life and to invite all of us strangers to come over there. So, someone's got to be the one, you guys. So if you're in the chat right now, maybe you need to be the one to say, I will have people to my house to get this kicked off. Because if Rhonda hadn't reached out, this podcast wouldn't exist, and Tina's book wouldn't be finished, and my books wouldn't be finished. And Jennifer. So yeah. So reach out. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Should we move on from that?
We did not plan. I know we did not plan to do like that little walk down memory lane, but that was awesome. I really appreciate that. But what I was going to say was that I found out about the very first year that I did Nano. I found out a bit about it. I want to say it was October. It was in the 20s. I mean, like I had less than a week to prepare. I thought, oh, what a great idea. I'm going to do this, not realizing how much prep it would take. And so learned along the way that, like me especially, I need to prepare so that I have a successful National Novel Writing Month. And then discovered that there's a thing called Preptober. And Preptober is kind of an unofficial thing that Nano writers or any other writer will talk about. You can find the hashtag Preptober on Twitter and also on Instagram, everywhere. And it is where you take the month of October and you prepare. So you can just kind of take the month and just kind of prepare, or you can have a real systematic approach to it, right? So
yeah, the first thing I would probably recommend would be to head over to the NaNoWriMo website and get yourself an online account there. All you need is an email. You can call yourself whatever you want, as far as I know, over there. You can use your pen name, you can use your real name, whatever, and figure out what your region is if you want to try to attend any. I think all the events are going to be virtual this year because of the COVID stuff. but you can figure out who's in your region. I see Piper says her region's just a couple of people, not super active. So you might do better finding writing community somewhere that you're already getting social networking, like Twitter or Instagram. Throw out a line and see who else is doing Nano. So I'd say go to their website is first.
Piper says, I went to a NaNoWriMo once, but my region is not active. There were 2 of us there. Yes. So similar experience. I've heard from other people. We have a pretty active Nano. It might just take you being a Rhonda and reaching out to people and saying, hey, would you like to join me at Panera? I'm going to be doing this. Maria said, I've been to one Nano event in person. Nobody talked to me. LOL.
Aww.
We were all sat at the same tables, and 3 ladies opposite me only talked to each other. They should have been in a cafe. Huh? Yeah. So that makes me sad. But again, if it weren't for Rhonda, we would have had a similar experience. So,
and you guys all have us all through Preptober. We will be here for you. So even if you don't find an active region, you can check in with us and let us know how your Preptober is going.
So Jamie mentioned going to the NaNoWriMo website, and it's a great idea. They actually have a Preptober kind of course that they're doing, but they're doing it for 6 weeks. It started in September. We are going to be doing Preptober in just October, like as we normally do, but they have some really good resources. So if we were going to do we are going to do Preptober, but our suggestion is the very first thing, ladies, wouldn't you agree, is to develop a story idea?
Yeah, I mean, what are you going to write about seems like the very basic first step, I would say.
Yeah.
What are some ways that you ladies develop your story ideas?
Well, like I said earlier, my novel came from a what if question. What if we didn't have the New Testament and we had to live under the law? What would the world look like? And so that is where my book came from. And so what if you can just write down 100 what if questions, you could have some really good ideas in there.
Yeah, that's a concept I learned from K.M. Weiland. If you guys don't know who she is, she's got a YouTube channel as well. But her idea about doing what ifs, like when I have a story idea, I will sit down and just write what if, and I do. Some of them are ridiculous and I'm never going to use it, but some of them start off as ridiculous, and then I'm like, wait a minute, and it takes the story in a new direction. So, what about you, Rhonda? How do you develop? Oh, sorry.
No, go Rhonda.
Well, okay. So the first Nano, I decided to go ahead and do it. I had joined NaNo for the last 5 or 6 years before that, and I would always get started, but I didn't know anything about writing a novel. I thought I was just sit down and start on page 1 and go to the end. That's what I knew about writing. And so anyway, the year I finally decided to go meet in person, I thought that would encourage me to finish the month, and it really did. I mean, as you heard our story. But I was a little bit Taylor Swift that year, and I really wanted to tell a story about something that was happening in real life.
Yeah.
A little bit I wanted to punch somebody, but then a little bit I wanted to tell my side of the story.
Oh, so how did that go? Because then you probably wrote a character you didn't want to do anything mean to.
Yeah, I know. That's when I found out my biggest problem. Yeah. So,
this was supposed to be your revenge character that was going to be the person all this bad stuff happened to, and then you were like, oh, never mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's when you know your character is a real human to you. So good job. So sorry, I've gotten us way off track.
Oh, no, that's fine. So that was my first really story idea. But I don't know. I've got so many ideas for stories. I don't really need any sort of a generator but like the what if questions for refining those ideas, those are fantastic.
Go ahead. Well, if any of our listeners find themselves without a story idea, I'm sure that they started a little notebook back in June when we said during episode number 35, I think, in June, we said, get yourself episode 93. Get yourself a little notebook and write down the story ideas as they inspire you. So I'm sure everyone has a notebook full of ideas, right? That they've been keeping since June.
Sure.
Because real life events will inspire you to write some stories sometimes.
Yes.
Right.
Yep. I use a lot of true life with my historical stuff because people have always been so interesting. It's not, I run across so many people who think that they see these black and white pictures of people from the past and their lives must have been black and white. I mean, what they do besides milk the cows and whatever, but you find out so many interesting things about them that it's hard not to want to tell their stories.
Right.
Go ahead, Jennifer.
I was gonna say also too, like continuing a series is obviously something that's what I've done. Every year I kind of continue my series. But I'm hoping to so I've finished my series and I gotta do something else. And I have found that I can look back at my old sprints. So if you're following this podcast and you sprint with us every week, you should have like a plethora of like small writing pieces that you could develop into. Maybe you found a character that you just really love in a sprint. You didn't realize that you even knew this person and now all of a sudden they're real to you. Take that and that idea or that person and build your story around that. So old sprints are a great place to harvest new story ideas.
Okay, I think that that's pretty helpful. The next step, I think, would be to add some complexity to your characters. Wouldn't you think? You've got a story idea and you pretty much know who the players are going to be, but you don't want people complaining your characters are flat or one-dimensional, correct?
Correct.
Absolutely.
What are some ideas to help you start developing the complexities of character?
I like to do Pinterest boards with my characters. Like I like to try to find people that look like what I think they look like, or the even like if it's just a personality thing. So like I like to do that. That's fun to do. I waste a lot of time doing that.
I have never done this, but I really am intrigued by the idea, and I think I might do it for my next book. But to use personality tests that you can do online, like the Myers-Briggs, Enneagram, birth order, there's a bunch of them out there. And then once you have like a personality type, you can look at all the characteristics of that personality type, and that can help you to build those into your character.
I use the birth order book for all my books. Like I have to know where the person is in the birth order, if they're only child, if they're, and then I take those personality traits because I just think that it's an easy way to do it. So,
Yep. I'm a huge fan of the Myers-Briggs. I always say it wrong. Jamie, how do you do your characters? You're so good at it.
I feel like my tip that I wrote down is to live with them. And what I mean by that is I'll be washing the dishes and my husband and I will start what we think is adorable banter between a married couple, right? And so I'll try out lines. Yeah, and I'll try out lines and I'll be like, oh, well, the reaction from my character would be this way, or gosh, that sounds just like something that character would say. And it would kind of ping in my head. And then I go into like imaginary world and I just kind of, well, how would Reese react to that information? How would Honey think about that? Or that was a very Honey moment right there. Like I'll see other two people acting in a way that inspires me and makes me remember my book. And if it makes me think of my character, then that might be important. So I should dwell there and think and explore further, maybe write a scene of the person. Because I got a bonus piece of information. I'm just going to give it right here. The writing you do in NaNoWriMo is not going to deplete you of writing words. Because a big fear that I have is I'll write all of Preptober, and then November 1st will come and the words will stop, like writer's block will totally kick in or whatever. But what I've discovered is that the more I write, the more the words come. It's sort of like when I was breastfeeding my babies and I learned that the more they nurse, the more your supply builds up. It seems to be that the word fountain flows more freely the more words you actually write. Don't be afraid that you're wasting writing by taking some time to write these things. You're only helping yourself.
Agreed.
That was a huge fear of mine, that I only had so many words in my head and I was draining them.
Well, another thing you could do is go back and watch our podcast. Episodes 85, 86, and 87 are all about characters. And also episode 92 is also about characterization. So there's some help for you right there that you could use.
Tina, can you tuck your mic a little closer to your face? I think maybe you moved it because you had great. That's some really good advice. We already did the heavy lifting for you. Go back and check out those episodes. Okay, so now we've got a story idea and complex characters. So what's going to happen in your story? Time to plot it, right, ladies?
My favorite part of the process.
You're the evil, plotting. She's plotting.
Yeah, I don't know how. Yeah, I'm plotting. I wish I had one of my isolation booths here to show. Yeah.
So why is it your favorite part, Jen? Speak to it.
Because I get excited because that to me is when the story really starts to come alive.
Yeah.
I do a 3-act. Mine are always like a 3-act format, and I use a science fair cardboard trifold so that like the first 25% is on the one side of it, and then the middle 50% is there, and then the last 25% is on the other side. And then so each of my, I call disasters, are at the bottom of each of those so that I know, like, and then I post-it note the garbage out of it. Like I just, I'll even put like, and so for me, I have an ideal a number of chapters. So I put those, it'll say chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. And then I just start doing post-it notes and I move my ideas around. And that's just more fun for me because I start thinking about, oh, then this can happen and that. And then as I do that, I see where I have giant holes. Okay, so I have 2 chapters. I have no idea what I'm going to do. Well, then I go back and I can look at character arc. Okay, well, I haven't even worked on this issue that she has with getting to know people and her shyness. So I got to do something, and then I figure out something there. So for me, that's when the story starts to come alive. And so and then when Nano starts and I already have that all planned out, I just got to write it. So that's what I love about it. If you want to know more about how I plot, sign up for our newsletter, because one of the freebies that you get is the romance plot sheet that I created. So just go over to our website, christianindywriters.net, sign up for our newsletter, and you can get that.
Yeah, it's really helpful, actually. It helps you with structure. Another good plotting device, if you're not someone who needs a physical plotting device, I guess Story Genius. Jen, you said that inside Story Genius, there's a great outlining tool.
No, I didn't.
Sorry, that was Tina. What did you say about that, Tina?
Well, I like the book. The Story Genius has.
The book. Okay.
Yeah, it has a method of plotting your story that starts with your character and their.
Can we pause, because I get confused with Story Origin and Story Genius. So this is where I'm probably confusing the rest of the world. So backtrack. We're talking about a book, Story Genius, which is also a podcast, isn't it, Bambino?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Sorry. Go ahead, Tina.
Okay. So the idea is to get into the internal motivations of your character and let that drive the action. So it's just a little flow sheet. And Jenny Nash uses this too. She is a book coach, and if you watch any kind of writing podcast, you've seen her. Like, she's everywhere. And she calls it the inside outline, but it's pretty much the same thing. Where you look at the desire, the deep desire, or what is it that your character wants, and you let the whys of that determine the action of the story. And then you always ask at the end of each scene, okay, this is their why, and so because of that, what happens next?
Well, that sounds like a really helpful tool to help you figure out what would happen next, like what to actually write next in the story. And I love how
it's like halfway between being a plotter and a pantser.
Yeah, and I like how the kind of play on words happens there, inside out line. Like, that's kind of fun. Yeah. Okay.
Rhonda, do you have any tools or anything that could help us do this plotting?
Yeah, I have a little something, and I cannot believe it's on my bed right now. I was using it last night, and I don't have it sitting here next to me. I'm so sad. But anyway, my partner in my D.D. Bowman world and I put together a workbook from what we did is over the years, we've created worksheets to use to help us with our plotting. Plotting is also my favorite part, and it's hard for me to get out of the plotting stage sometimes. But we did this to sort of help me with that, because the workbook, it's on Amazon, ready for you right now. It's called Plot Your Novel with this workbook. And it's just sheet after sheet after sheet of determining what your settings are, who your characters are, what the arcs are, what goes into every scene. We have a page on what ifs, recording your sprints. So anyway, that's what I will be using this year. I've already started, and I'm really liking it.
And if you would like to find this book, go to our Instagram account and click on our link in bio, and you will have a link straight to her book.
Oh, very nice. Thank you.
Way to drive traffic to our Instagram account.
Yeah.
Well,
And still
that's the
do a
only
book
place
at
I know
the
for
same
sure that
time.
we. I know we have it other places, but I know for sure it's there. And I want people to be able to find it.
Well, I just want to say that Piper says she's tried plotting various ways, and too much plotting makes her bored of the story before I even begin. But not plotting at all gives me too much room to play. No boundaries means I freeze, LOL. And I just want to say, Piper, that was my little tip of how to plot. I was just like, do none of it if you don't want. And I don't mean that to be like plotting isn't important, because it totally is for different kinds of writers. I mean, this is a your mileage may vary kind of thing. If you've never plotted before, you should try it, because you might need to plot and you're just ignoring the fact, wanting to be a pantser for some romantic idea. No, do what's going to help you cross the finish line, right? So if you're a plotter, be a plotter, but don't feel like you have to be, or you're an anomaly. I don't like to plot. I have a weird plot that exists in my brain, I guess, and then I half plot as I go along. So I'm kind of a plantser. I half plot and half pants. But you don't have to be someone who's all into plotting to write a novel. You can do it your way. Right.
Jamie and I could not be farther apart in how we plan and how we do our writing. But yeah, Jamie's a great writer. I mean, like, it's just hands down, her stuff is so good. So be who you are. So Jason says,
I think Jamie's just one of those rare birds that just is a natural storyteller and doesn't really have to follow the rules, because if there are rules she had to follow, she wouldn't follow them anyway. So
Didn't we just find out that your genre was the anti-novel?
Yeah, that's what you had said. I still don't know what genre I'm writing. I know it's terrible. I don't even know. It's too many rules for me that I'm scared that I'm violating, right? Like I just don't want to market it as something and completely disappoint people, but whatever. That's my personal drama. What's going on over here in the chat?
Oh, Jason says, as I plan my book out more, it is becoming more of a romance than I thought it would. Trying to work on ideas for developing the main character's relationship now.
Aww.
That's great.
Probably a good time to say that there's probably romance in most books, but what makes a book a romance is they have to live happily ever after at the end, and you have to have those tropes that Jen could tell you all about.
Right. We have, I think we have an episode. We do have an episode on that.
Yep.
The other thing I would say, Jason, too, is you're a newer writer, and if I could go back in time to Jen of 6 years ago, I would tell her, start plotting, because I didn't realize that I wasn't plotting. I didn't realize I was just writing. And so some people are pantsers and some people don't know how to plot yet. That's how I was. So it's possible that, like, you're saying that, oh, I'm discovering that it's more of a romance. Maybe it's because you didn't plot. So now your story is just kind of going wherever, which is maybe perfectly great. But if you find that you're struggling, maybe you should stop a little bit and plot. So I'm not saying that you have to be a plotter. I'm just saying that if anyone that's listening, if you're struggling with your story because it's not going where you thought it was going to go, or it's becoming like not easy, I guess, maybe try plotting.
All right. And then our final, it's kind of handy here because 1, 2, 3, 4. Looks like we got some 4 bullet points going on here. If you want to focus on 1 per week of October, that'd be really handy. So far we've talked about, you want to make sure you've got a story idea. You want to make sure your characters are complex. You've got a plot or an outline ready to go. And then you want to build a strong world. Jen, how do you build a strong world for your characters to live in?
Historical research. I can get lost in historical research. One of my favorite things is I have a subscription to newspapers.com, and you can go back to the 1800s and read newspaper articles. So for me, it's like, that's really how life was. Like, I can read what was happening in the town that I'm writing about. I can look at the advertisements and see the names of the stores. Like, you can Google stores in Lansing in the early 1900s and you won't get anything, but you open up a newspaper and there's all these ads. Like, even little coffee shops are in there and stuff. So I love historical research. That's how I build a strong world, is I get authentic things that really existed.
Awesome. Who else has a tip for building a world that people will believe in? Tina, you write what you know, don't you?
Yeah, I write what I know. So my story is kind of weird in a way that I've been a Bible study teacher. I was trying to count it up. I think 16 years now. And I've taken a Bible study called The Life of Moses, and I've taught a Bible study twice on the life of Moses. So I know that, like how the tabernacle worked in the Old Testament and how the sacrifices worked and all that stuff. And I also grew up in Alaska. And so, like, when you guys went to school here in Michigan, then in history class or social studies or whatever, they would probably teach you Michigan history and Michigan culture kind of stuff. So in school, when I was growing up, we got to learn about all the different, there's 9 different tribes of Native American that live in Alaska.
That's cool.
9. Wow.
And we got to learn about all of those different tribes. And so I had learned that in school. I grew up in Alaska. My dad worked in the pipeline, so he was home a week, gone a week, home a week, gone a week. So in the summers, when he was home a week, we would jump in the Winnebago, and we would go. It was the 70s.
Nice.
Go out into the wilderness. This beautiful. Every window in my house had like a beautiful snow-capped mountain peaks kind of vista, like you would see in artwork. Like, you know, I had the Chugach Range over here, and then there was an inlet and the Sleeping Lady Mountain, and on a clear day you could see Mount Denali, also known as Mount McKinley.
Yeah, and if you can hear Tina's enthusiasm as she talks about this, it totally comes through in the imagery of her writing. When you open up Lost, you're going to get lost in her descriptions of this place because it's obvious that she knows it. She's been there, and it comes right through in her book. Wouldn't you say, guys?
Mm-hmm. And I would say, like, the beauty of the Alaskan wilderness is like I can understand why the natives think it has a spirit.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I'm going to say. Because I believe it's the spirit of God that he's poured into his creation that's coming out. But I like to connect to that feeling that I get when I was there and try to make that come out in my writing. So, like, I took Native American culture, the beauty of Alaska, American culture, and the Old Testament, and I mushed them all up, and I created a world.
Wonderful.
So
awesome. So I could talk about how world building affects my writing. Rhonda, did you have anything to add before I jump into that?
I just kind of similar to Tina. Basically, she makes her setting like a character in the book almost. And that's sort of what I like too, because I love my little towns. And so that's naturally where I go.
That's a really interesting concept. If you treated your setting like a character and did the what if questions and everything that you do for a character, you would probably learn a whole lot more about your world than you knew before, wouldn't you say? And to me, I kind of feel like that's the most important thing, is that the author knows the world. I don't think it's so important for you to document every detail of how your world works for the reader. But I think the author needs to understand the world well enough to where the characters' interactions in that world make sense. So that, like, naturally, like, so in my book, it doesn't really matter what the economy is like, because my character isn't very materialistic. He doesn't spend a lot of time buying things. He doesn't go to the store. So who cares? But I had to know how my economy worked for reasons that made the story, in my opinion, work better for the people who are reading it. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And again, you're not wasting words if you take some time to write out, you know, stuff like, what if everybody barters for everything, and you just kind of brain dump about things like that. You know it, but your readers don't necessarily need to know it. Am I making sense?
Absolutely. Piper says, if you can do a map of or pictures of the places you're talking about, you can keep consistent throughout the story. But you don't have to, like, have the map in your book. You can, but you don't have to. Like, I found a old map of Lansing, Michigan, and I printed it and I used that to make sure they were turned the right way, all because it's hard to keep track of things, right? If you created this world and it doesn't, maybe nobody will notice, but I'll know and I won't get caught up in that. So so yeah, like, I totally agree with what Jamie said. I over research, I over understand my world so that it feels authentic, but I don't have to include every single thing.
Well, and guess why else that's important? So that when you are at your book launch party or someone's interviewing you on a podcast or wherever, you'll have stuff that you can say. And when you do have the super fans who say, but wait a minute, you said blah, blah, blah over here. But you could say, well, actually, in the world that I developed, blah, 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 blah. And they'll be like, whoa, you've got a whole lore that you've thought about that's not even in your, whoa, and it's impressive. Do you know what I'm saying? So, I mean, if you want to impress the interviewee person, know your world. Plus,
reviewers. I have a reviewer that's actually from Lansing, and when she reviewed the book, she's like, it's so obvious that she knows Lansing well. Well, I really didn't know Lansing well before I wrote my book. So that, that helped. Sorry, Tina.
Nice. Very good.
I was going to say that it's the same is true if you're writing about a place like Alaska and you're describing setting. Like I could go on and on and on, but I don't want to bore my reader. So I pick out the thing that's most moving to me and talk about that. And then, they can imagine like the grass and the snow under the trees or whatever.
All right, Jen, you got anything from the chat before we move on?
Nope. I think that was all that. Other than the fact that Piper's husband wants to go to Alaska really bad.
Well, if you need a personal tour guide, let me know.
That'd be amazing.
We should do a writing retreat someday in Alaska.
Oh, that would be so great. That would be wonderful. Okay, so if there's nothing about the topic left to say, we can move on. What do you say, Jen?
To say one more thing. Jamie had said that, we had 4 things that we feel like you should work on in Preptober. And gosh, you could just take one of these topics a week and work on it. And she's like, but what she didn't say was, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to take each of these topics in October, and we're going to do a Facebook Live every Sunday evening. That's what we agreed on, right, ladies?
Yeah.
Jamie, who is our pantser, probably won't be there, or if she's there, she's going to be there for comic relief and be pointing and laughing at us, which is also enjoyable as well. But we're going to be working on those beginning October 4th. You can join us Sunday evenings on our Facebook page. If you do not follow us on Facebook, please head on over there, give us a like. You can also hit that there's a little bell that you can hit, and it will give you, every time we go live, it'll let you know. And we will be discussing these. So our very first week, October 4th, we are going to be discussing developing your story idea. So we'd love for you guys to join us in the chat over there.
Should we pick what time right now? Because I don't think we go live with these chatters again until we've already gone live once on a Sunday, or do we have one more Friday before? More. Awesome. Then we'll tell you what time next week.
Because we didn't discuss it off there.
Awesome. Okay, so what else before? Oh, Shell says retreat in Alaska. She's in. Ooh.
All right.
All right. It's a big picture goal. Big goal. Okay, so we're going to move on now to our writing sprint time, which we call the feeding of the backs. What? Well, we give you feedback about your piece, and then we ask you, is your back well fed before we move on? Now, these are fresh, unedited pieces of writing, so we only give positive feedback. I, as always, am going to pick Jennifer to go first. She will read the words which she would like to make clear she did not choose for today's writing, because it's 5 randomly generated words, right, Jen?
Yes, I would for sure like to throw Tina Catane under the bus for this one, because these were hard. So I have to indent.
Oh, and Barb
says it's not my fault what the random word generator came up with.
I still want to blame you.
Yeah, it's still fun to blame you, Tina.
Jennifer,
especially
did I
if you
just
get all
hear
upset
you
about it.
saying you were going to edit something?
I just had to indent, because I think it's harder to read. So
Barb says, where's the Winnebago? I'm in. Yes, I would love, like, part of my retirement fantasy includes a Winnebago. So yes, I understand.
Do they even make those anymore?
Oh yeah,
sure they do.
What if we rented a big Winnebago and we had limited, like we only had so many tickets, and all the writers were cramming into one motorhome, driving around Alaska writing?
I'll take you all the good places.
That sounds like a recipe for short story disaster. Yeah. Anyway,
so we have to kill somebody other than the pizza guy this time, because I'm not sure they deliver where we're going.
Probably not to Winnebagos either. That's a little. All right. So today's words, 5 words today, were conceive, debut, weapon, advance, and sandwich. I only used 3 of the words, and it's just words. This is nothing I'm excited about, but it's a sprint. I wrote.
All right.
Ryan poked his sandwich with his fork. Whoever had the audacity to conceive this idea needs to be committed. You don't like barbecue? Is that what this is? Which layer would you label barbecue? All of it, silly, Allie said, lifting the giant onion roll stuffed with at least 3 inches of piled on meats that Ryan could only hope came from an animal he could identify. He watched in horror as she squished the buns together, unidentified meat oozing out the side, then opened her mouth a size that before this moment Ryan would have said was physically impossible, and smashed the mess that passed for her meal into her pretty face. She bit into the sandwich, then closed her eyes and moaned. So good, she said through her stuffed mouth. I'll take your word for it. Her eyes flew open and she swallowed and she stared at him. You aren't going to eat it? Eat it? I have a rule about food. If I can't identify it, I don't eat it. That rule has served me well up until now. Her face grew sad. I wish I had known in advance that you didn't like barbecue. We could have gone somewhere else. We still can, he said, not really expecting her to agree. But to his surprise, she folded her napkin and pushed away from the table. Where do you want to go? You'd be willing to leave? Thought you were enjoying your meal. I am, but you aren't. I know what it's like to sit through an entire meal and not enjoy it. I don't want you to be miserable like I was. Ryan didn't have to ask to know she was referring to the meal they had when they went out with his parents. He thought Allie would enjoy La Fontaine. Most women he dated wanted him to take them to the most expensive restaurants and spend as much money as possible. But Allie wasn't like most girls. But like a trooper, she'd suffered through the escargot and pate appetizers his mother had ordered and didn't complain when her steak arrived and it was the size of a quarter. Sit back down, he said, and explain to me what I'm about to eat. 3, 2, 1.
Okay, I know we're not supposed to give negative feedback, but when she said, if I'd known you didn't like barbecue, I would have dumped you. Should have been the next line. I know it's supposed to be positive only, but I couldn't help myself. Oh my gosh, you made me so hungry. Onion roll, you're kidding me.
Oh, yeah.
Kill me now. Love it. So delectable.
I went to a place in Fenton this last weekend for lunch, so I'm pretty sure they had that sandwich.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
That place is so good.
So I may or may not have pulled pork in my fridge right now and some brisket, pulled pork that I made, and then brisket that I got from Wood Chips in Lapeer. If you are local, Lapeer and Oxford, best barbecue in the state. And so like I can't wait for us to be done. And I have some keto coleslaw that I love that's out there. So like I just like to pile it. Brisket and pulled pork, and then some little bit of sauce and coleslaw on top, and just eat. Like I don't do sandwiches, but I know.
We went to Beale Street. I think it was called Beale Street Barbecue in Fenton this weekend, and that was really good.
That does sound good too. I've heard of that place.
Lots of praise in the chat for your story, Jen. Piper says it's really good. She's glad he didn't make her leave. That's great. Shell said so sweet. And Gigi, hi Gigi. She says she loves Allie and Ryan. They're very cute characters. I do love it. Also, hey, Shell said, and also Piper couldn't find the Sprint Prepped on Facebook. Sorry, we'll try to be better about that. Yeah, but that's okay.
That's my mistake. That is my mistake. Sorry. I was trying to get Tina's interior layout to her before we started. Sorry. It's my mistake. I missed it. I'm so sorry. It was on Twitter and it was on Instagram, but I missed Facebook. I'm really sorry.
Yeah, I should try to be the one to post it since I go over to Facebook. Anyway, we'll talk about that out there. Okay.
Yeah.
So the onion roll, Gigi, I'm with you. Love onion rolls. Okay.
So Allie and Ryan, I'm not even sure like what I named them before, but in my mind they were that millionaire and the common girl that I wrote about. Like so in my mind I was kind of thinking about them. So
nice. Be a nice contemporary starter.
I can't wait. I seriously can't wait to get this historical. Like I gotta get doing on some contemporaries. I'm so excited about them.
So, hey, Rhonda, yoo-hoo, Rhonda. I'm not going to make you be last today, Rhonda. So you can go first or next.
Aw. Well, all right. Okay, so usually I love sprinting and I make a real effort to use all the words, even if it sounds stupid. And this time I actually didn't even think about, after I wrote the first word down, I didn't think about the rest of them. So sorry. Okay. My weapon of choice, a fire-breathing dragon. Marcy sighed, folded her notepad, and started to put it away. I was obviously an even more difficult interviewee than she was told I'd be. No, really, don't roll your eyes at me until you've sat behind my torch, melted some glass, and created a little blob of joy at the end of your your mandrel. She grunted, but reopened her notepad and scribbled a moment. Go on, she begrudged me. You asked me where I feel most free, right? Well, that's where I do things exactly the way I want. When the glass cooperates, that is. I'm telling you, it's near impossible to worry about mortgages, children, husband problems, when there's a torch in your lap spewing 2,400-degree flames, and the rod of molten lava in your hand could drop onto your leg at any moment. I was getting myself all pumped up again. Then I remembered I would never see Sparky, my little fire-breathing dragon, ever again. She didn't notice a change in my demeanor, and I was glad. I quickly changed the subject. Marcy, what do you like to do? This is your interview, not mine. She looked up as if to make sure I wasn't trying to escape the room. No rabbit trails, okay? Let's stick to the list and this painful...
3, 2, 1.
That's when Jamie told me to stop.
Rhonda, I love how you talk about the creative process. I
Yes.
mean, you're right. When you're really in the midst of creating something, your real world just goes away.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we chase that. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
As artists, I believe.
Yeah,
Very, very
same
good.
reason as reading. You know, you read to escape into whatever world it is. And when you write, it's the same thing, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I love
It
it.
was
I love
really
your
poignant.
Yeah, I love your description, and the fire-breathing dragon pulled me in because I was like, okay, how's that a weapon? And then as you built the story, I just love it. So
If anybody wants to know what to get me for my birthday, I want a little glass-blown fire-breathing dragon.
Oh,
That would be beautiful.
I wish you had told me that last year.
Rhonda, I watched a whole thing about glass blowing, but that whole environment looks hot and sweaty. Is it really?
Extremely.
Oh man, I don't know if I could do
I'm such a
it.
sweaty person anyway. It's 58 degrees.
Me
here.
too.
Well,
I'm totally a sweaty person.
oh yeah.
But do you not pay attention? How do you do that? Like, I feel like I would
because
hate
at that
it.
point, you're so sweaty anyway. It just
just part of
becomes a
it.
non-thing. Yeah, it's just part of it.
I know, because I think I would really like that. I think I'd really like it. But the heat part, I'm like, you make it sound very appealing. Very nice.
It is very appealing.
All right. Well, I'll go next just so it's not a million talky of me all in a row. Here's my sprint. And I'm like Rhonda. I hit the first couple of words and then I just forgot that I even had words to deal with. Oops. So here we go. See that guy? Jerry lifted his head in the direction of a tall, skinny man leaning against a shovel. Yeah, I see him. Kevin was annoyed that the digging had stopped, but figured as he was the new guy on the crew, it was best to keep pace with the foreman. He took advantage of the opportunity and slipped his hands out of his work gloves, drying them on his jeans. He wondered absently if he had a dry pair in the car. He grimaced. Wouldn't likely matter none, he thought. I'd sweat right through him in a matter of minutes. Anyway, that guy over there, we call him Wimpy. Wimpy? Kevin removed his mop cloth from his back pocket and swiped at his neck and forehead with it. On account of he's so scrawny or what? Oh, no. Jerry laughed and rocked back on his shovel. On account of he's so much like that tubby fella from Popeye cartoons. Popeye? Kevin arched a brow. You're aging yourself, bud. I know. His grin widened. Anyway, that guy there is already into me for one advanced sandwich. He's not aware that I charge interest. What kind of interest are you talking about? Kevin's own grin was now artificially widened. He really just wanted to get the story over with and get back to digging. Hey, Wimpy! Jerry put his hands to his mouth in an attempt for his calls to be heard over the ruckus of the worksite. Come on over here. It took a little bit more shouting and some grand hand gestures to communicate to the skinny fellow, but he eventually set his shovel against the wall and trotted over. Hey there, Wimpy. This is the new guy, Kevin. Good to meet ya. The young man grabbed and pumped Kevin's hand with a decent amount of vigor, but Kevin grimaced at the feel of the sweat-sodden rawhide against his own dry palm. Look here, Wimpy, Jerry continued. I was just telling Kevin here how you owed me for that sandwich I gave you. Oh, it was a real good one, too. The kid's eyes drifted close, and he leaned backward and made a large, dramatic circles on his non-existent stomach, which he appeared to be attempting to protrude. I sure hope you told Linda how much I appreciated it. I did indeed, Wimpy, Jerry said, and winked at Kevin. In fact, she got so flustered hearing me talk about how much you like that sandwich, she sent me another for you today and a big old piece of icebox pie to go along with it. She did not. The young man's eyes flew open, and he snapped to attention so quickly Kevin had to turn away to hide his laughing reaction. She did indeed, Jerry said, and she was wondering, if you might have some time after work tonight. I mean, if you have nothing going on. If you might help her out with that new garden bed she was thinking of putting in on the other side of the property. Oh, yes, sir. You mean that piece you've been planning on digging up yourself for some time now? That's the ticket, Jerry said. Kevin shook his head incredulous, but he was also impressed. It seemed like a match made in heaven. Well, Jerry said, we can't stand here yakking against our shovels all day. Let's get back to it. Yes, sir, Kevin said, and resumed digging.
Jamie, how do you get so much in such a short amount of time?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Complete.
I changed tense, though. I turned it to I at the end of that, but I read it right.
Oh,
sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, okay. Absolutely love the characters. I could see them in my mind right now. And I love that how he was using a sandwich to get his work done.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Very clever.
Yeah.
Very clever.
I
And
may
I
or may
love
not
that-
have experience with bribing young men with food.
Now I want barbecue and an piece of icebox pie.
Oh, yeah.
Was it lemon pie? Because in my mind, it was lemon pie.
I was thinking chocolate.
Oh my gosh, I don't know. I just learned of this weird thing that they make somewhere on the West Coast. It has like coconut chocolate on the bottom, then some weird Bavarian cream, and then chocolate on top. I can't remember what they're called. They're called like Iodo bars or something like that.
Heaven.
I'd never heard of them before, and now I want them really bad, but they look like a big pain to make. It's kind of like a no-bake situation, but those are what I was thinking of. It's some kind of layered bar that they make in a big pan, and then they cut it up.
Gigi liked your Popeye reference.
Oh,
Yeah.
thanks.
Yeah.
Me too.
I wanted to do a Dagwood reference, but then I didn't know how many people absolutely would not get that.
Oh, yeah. Piper says that the Tom Sawyer in your shove him.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Lots
Fun.
of compliments.
I just
Love
like how you sprinkle in little subtle ways to show the relationship. Just like did you tell Nancy? I can't remember her name. Thank you. Linda, yes. When he wanted to make sure that Linda knew he appreciated it. Just, their relationship opened up in my mind.
Oh, thanks.
I have a feeling Linda doesn't know about this arrangement with the garden. They were just being nice and making sandwiches.
Maybe. She's like, gosh, my husband's eating so much more lately. He's so hungry at lunch. I just can't figure it out.
If I was his wife, I wouldn't care as long as the work's getting done. I'll make all the
Yeah.
sandwiches you want. I don't
How
care
many
who does
sandwiches
it.
do you want today?
I don't care who does the
That's
work
great.
as long as it gets done.
Yeah.
That's great. All right. So who's left? Bambina, you didn't read us your story yet. We'd like to hear
No.
how you handled this prompt.
And I had some technical issues, so I wasn't writing the whole time, so it's not finished.
Oh,
Usually I make it to my punchline, but So I think I did 4 of the words.
nice.
I forgot about the last one. Okay, here we go. Priscilla would never have conceived of a situation where her directorial debut would consist of convincing a man dressed as a sandwich to put the gun down. She sat on the edge of the stage and tried to pretend that her hands weren't shaking and she didn't feel like throwing up. The officer had his notepad open and pen poised at the ready. He was waiting for her, she realized. Had he asked her a question? I'm sorry, what was the question? Can you tell me what happened, ma'am? Take your time. The officer smiled at her. He really was quite handsome with dark hair and bright blue eyes. She imagined his last name must be O'Flannery or O'Rourke or something with an O at the beginning. She glanced at his name badge. O'Reilly, of course. She smiled back at him, admiring the white polish of his teeth and his broad shoulders that seemed cramped in his uniform shirt. Ma'am? Oh, right. Well, we were rehearsing for the play like usual. Everything was going well. Okay, going well isn't exactly right. It was going as normal, which was badly. Acting-wise, of course. I mean, Judy just doesn't understand that an eggplant would not have a happy-go-lucky attitude. And Morty, well, I can just tell you that I don't think he enjoys being typecast as a hot dog, and it really comes through in his performance, if you can call it that. Not very professional, if you ask me. I mean, if you tell someone you played a hot dog at the A&W for 3 years in your audition as a means of convincing them to make you a part of the cast, can you really complain when you get cast as the hot dog?
Nope.
I don't think so. Priscilla paused to take a breath and realized hunky Officer O'Reilly was still waiting with his pen poised above his notebook. 3, 2, 1.
Aww.
So much
Would you
drama
want
in that little drama group. Oh, that's so
I don't
funny.
know. I hadn't gotten there yet. I have no idea.
Love it. Love it. Love it.
But there was going to be like a whole crazy story about why Sandwich Guy had a gun.
Are you going to finish it?
I don't know. I'll put it in the whatever you call it in the file.
That was fun.
That was
Yeah.
fun.
I
You
laughed.
had me laughing within the first sentence or two. Like, that was great. Love it.
Yep.
I mean, you're a hot dog already. What do you expect? You're going to be cast
Exactly.
as a hot dog. You might consider it a compliment to your hot dog imitating capabilities instead of being offended.
Right.
Not everybody can play a hot dog. Just saying.
That's True.
Shell is upset about the cliffhanger. She wants to know why the sandwich had a gun and what happened with that whole thing there. So
I think
you might have
maybe
to
he
write this
wanted
whole
to be the hot
screenplay.
dog,
Ah.
and he didn't get the part. I don't know.
Oh, I see.
Like my brain had not gotten there yet.
It was like a
Maybe-
mutiny.
Maybe
Yeah.
it wasn't a weapon gun. Maybe it was like a pricing gun or something.
Ah.
Oh,
Maybe it wasn't
No,
a
it was
mutiny.
a
There was a
real gun.
mutiny.
Oh, okay.
He pulled the gun on her
I'm so
something
sorry.
for some reason that I hadn't ascertained yet.
Okay, well, we're running just a tiny bit over, but thanks everybody for all the wonderful comments about our sprints. If you sprint, make sure that you share it on our social media so that we can read it and share it as well. All right, now we got to go around the table one more time to talk about what's next in your writing career. What's next for you, Tina? You have exciting stuff coming up.
Yes, well, I am going to get my stuff uploaded to Ingram Sparks and get a author copy sent off. I actually have 2 proofreaders, which is a long story, so I won't go into it. But one's going to do the digital and one's going to do the print. So get them sent out, and I need to start working on my newsletter. So I was actually going to talk to you ladies about maybe being on the newsletter chat, because I just am stuck. I don't know where to go. So
Ooh, fun.
and I have a whole list of things that I need to do in order to prepare for my launch on November 14th, I hope is going to be the date. So
Awesome. Well, speaking of newsletter chat, I'll go next and say newsletter chat is what's next for me tomorrow night, 8 o'clock. Be there or be a box. And Jennifer is also on newsletter chat.
tomorrow night.
Isn't it Tuesday? Oh, wait, today's not Monday. Today's Friday. We have a whole weekend and a day. I don't know why I thought it was tomorrow night. Maybe I'm just having so much fun. I would like to move newsletter chat to tomorrow night. So Tuesdays at 8 o'clock. Okay. Jen and Jamie are there. Jen is usually falling asleep, but I keep her awake with annoying questions. So tune in for that. What's next for you, Jen?
Before I go with my what's next, Shell says that she's going to finish her short story. Got to stop scrolling Facebook and get my booty in the chair.
Well,
Yes,
yeah, that
girl.
happens,
Yes. Piper says her what's next. I pushed out my deadline to give myself another month to finish
Good
work
for
in
you.
progress. So I need to get to writing. Good.
Okay.
What's next is chapter 5. Like I've been working on chapter 4 forever. Now I'm on chapter 5 for the editing. And I'm hoping to get more than 1 chapter done this week. So that's that, as well as my newsletter comes out on Saturdays. I have not written this week's yet. So I have to today or tomorrow morning. No, today. I have to today. Write my newsletter and get that out. But it's going well for me. I have gained almost 200 new subscribers just this month for my
Wow.
newsletter.
Yes. And if you want to know how, go back and watch our newsletter chats because she outlines every step that she took along the way to tell you how she got 200 new subscribers in just a few weeks. So check it out.
Yep.
Okay. So did all of us
Jamie,
go?
what's your
No.
what's next?
Oh, well, I kind of talked about how I have a newsletter chat coming
Oh,
up.
that's right.
Yeah.
Rhonda,
With you, Rhonda. What's next?
Tina, you called me out. All right.
I
Okay.
really need to know what's next for you, Rhonda.
Inquiring minds want to know.
Are you on the edge of your seat? Are you ready?
I am.
Yes.
Okay. So the last couple days, my mom, my DD Bowman partner, and I have been putting together our cozy mystery version of our Plot Your newsletter or Plot Your novel with this workbook. And so it's all ready to go. We're waiting on our author copy to come back to make sure we like it. And we're hoping to have it launched by next week. So I will be working on an actual launch. So even though our first workbook has been out for a while, I'm going to do a launch on it anyway. So that's what I will be working on, that and social media, trying to do it right this week and all that.
All right, Rhonda, I'm sure that everybody will want weekly updates on what you're doing for that launch. Like what specifically do you plan to do? Do you know what I mean? So if you can talk about those in your what's next, because I think there's a lot of people who would want to know what those steps are. Do you know what I mean? That'd be great if you wouldn't mind sharing that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Jason's what's next. Focus on writing. Change the hook in my story to start in the middle of a battle before the battle was just talked about years later. All right.
Well, it's good to start with some action to get people sucked right in.
Agreed.
Mhm.
All right. Have we
All right.
been around the table? We've checked in with everybody. What's next? And checked in with the chat. Well, in that case, I think it's time to wrap it up. All right, ladies. So that concludes this episode of the Christian Indie Writers Podcast. Until next week, may your pen be prolific, your deadlines be met, and may all of your words honor Christ. Bye now.
Bye.
Bye.